it's the sort of the story about how you go from this very rough prototype to a game played by millions of people. And it's perhaps very similar to what you've been doing a game jam, building a really rough prototype, and then perhaps one day one of those games or ideas will end up being an actual big game played by many people. So I thought that could maybe be a little bit of inspiration to you. And it's at the same time a story of how you go from having just an idea to actually building a studio and having employees and building a company and stuff like that. So this will be the key takeaway from today. I really like this analogy. It's a Czech artist who made something called the euthanasia roller coaster, which is optimized for having the highest amount of fun while also killing you along the way. And I think that's a brilliant analogy for how it is to build a company and also to how to make a game. You will slowly die while also having a lot of fun. There's also some more serious takeaways, which is that you should make your company and your game iteratively and build at the same time. You should just take it one step at a time and don't have grand ideas of where you want to go just off the start. Just test it and validate it. And then also just celebrate all the time, because as I just showed you, the euthanasia roller coaster is killing you all the time. So every time you have a win, just celebrate it. And then you should just work with the very right people. So just a little bit about who I am. These are the games that I made. 5 games in total. I also made this game called John Dillermand. You probably don't know it, but I did that because I became Father of the Year when I made it, because my daughter really enjoys John Dillermand. It's very fun. And today we're mostly going to talk about this game, First Class Trouble, because it was the first game that was sort of a success for the studio. This is me when I was very young. This is my first computer. And this is the only game I could play on the computer, so I also spent some time learning BASIC and doing Caesar ciphers, which was the first sort of way I got into programming and games. Then later on, I really enjoyed this silent service game, mostly because my father was in the Navy, and this was a way for me to spend time with him, was to play a submarine game. I don't really enjoy submarine game anymore, but the funny thing is that it's a Sid Meier game, long before he made Civilization. So I took a long detour in the industry. I made some film first, and then in 2013 I sort of ended up with these guys who were making this game called Aporia Beyond the Valley. And when we started making this game, we were absolutely sure that it was going to be the huge success. Very convinced that this project was the thing that would make us. It looked like this. And as you'll see, it has a lot of good reviews, so you're going to think, well, that's probably going to sell a few copies since it got all these great reviews. But it didn't. It sold, I think, 5,000 copies. So it... But the point is, we released the game right when Steam was getting rid of their Project Greenlight, or I think it was called Project Greenlight, where you could sort of curate yourself into Steam. And then at that point, everything exploded, and 3,000 games were released the same month. And then the publisher we had also sent out the game free to almost everybody in the world, which is sort of a mistake, but they never really apologized for. So our game didn't do very well, and we were sort of bankrupt in the first company we had. So now what? We decided to make a new company, which would be 100% our company. We had some investors. 100% in our control, but also with 100% no salary at all, which was kind of stupid. And we had absolutely no idea what we were doing, so we actually did what you have been doing. We made a game jam and tried to figure out what kind of game are we going to make, what kind of games would we actually enjoy, and what could be fun for everyone else. And one of the things that we really enjoyed was these social aspects of gaming, and also strategizing. And at that point, there weren't a lot of games that had those aspects. I think you probably know Social Deduction and Among Us now, but when we started this, there was almost nothing of that kind. So it was felt kind of new and innovative, and we thought, that's something we're going to do. And that, of course, is a multiplayer game. And at this point, we had not made any kind of multiplayer game. We had sort of made the first game, as you saw, in CryEngine, and it's a lot of nature. And the reason is that when you open CryEngine and you press a button, then there's nature everywhere. So the first game was very simple to make, and sort of a cheat in many ways. So now we actually had to figure out, can we make any kind of multiplayer games? And this is where the snowmen come in. So this was the very first prototype for the game. snowman. You can see very advanced snow mechanic here, where you can throw endless amounts of snowballs with a broom. Great proof of concept. It worked. We could actually make multiplayer, do replication over network and stuff like that. So we thought, okay, let's go for the challenge. We also shifted engine while we were doing this, coming from CryEngine to Unreal. So one of the things we liked was these asymmetric mechanics. When we were playing a lot of Werewolf at the office when we were trying to brainstorm, and thought if you will know Werewolf, that's a wonderful asymmetric mechanic. Maybe we can do that in a video game as well. But we have to sort of figure out if it's funny. So we tried to make a prototype with voice and also the actual mechanic and some asymmetry, and that looked a little bit like this. So what's going on here is that there is one person on a monitor in the game that can see the lasers, like Mission Impossible, and the other one has to navigate one person through the maze. So we enjoyed this. We enjoyed this quite a lot. Actually, we thought this is fun. So now we need to figure out what kind of setting could we put this in. I'm personally a very big fan of The Thing, which is this Hollywood movie from the late 70s. And we needed to sort of try to show like what does that setting look like, and how does these asymmetric mechanics fit into this universe. But of course we couldn't build the entire game, so we had to come up with some way of trying to show this to publishers or someone else that would find an interest in the game. So we had this idea, let's just make a video where we fake everything. There is absolutely no game, we'll just act like there's a game. And then we made this weird setting, and then this weird video, which is then the next kind of prototype. And you will recognize that the voiceover here is absolutely amazing and fantastic. The voice acting is brilliant.
No, wait, what?
Have you seen the others?
No, we were supposed to meet here, right?
According to the waypoint, did you manage to find some salvage for the jump?
No, I didn't. Everything was like empty back there, but I'm starving. Do you have any food?
Yeah, sure. I found some salvage and some food and ammunition. I can spare something for you.
Thanks. Whoa, what was that? There's a flare.
Let's go then.
Yeah, we should definitely go.
So I think you can sort of get the point, right? We're going in a direction where we're trying to convey some kind of story and some kind of
See you.
universe.
Perfect. Yeah, careful. It was just here. Oh. Who did this?
You guys?
They're up here. Who's there? Oh, that's the other guy. Where have you been? Where have you been?
I'm looking for spare parts.
We did not like a line here.
You have to remember that at this point there was the voiceover is sort of made after the fact. So we just did some kind of recording running around for a while, and then did the voiceover after, which was even more strange that it isn't better. But based on this weird little prototype, which we sent to something called the DFI at Spill Opening, we got the first 100,000 kroner, which felt like an absolutely amazing thing. Like we had a lot of money. Obviously, that's absolutely no money when you try to make a game, but it felt really good. And the task was then to try to make it into a multiplayer game and put more mechanics in and make it, the thing you just saw, make it into an actual game that you could play. And that turned out to be sort of this kind of prototype. So now it's actually real time and not voiceover. Now the void works, and there's mechanics, and you can do stuff with it.
Hvem er Michael?
Herudad.
Er det Vendel Michael? Kom Vendel Michael, vi springer de her bygninger over. Okay, det kan jeg vælge på hjemme.
Skal være vej. Hvor er der fodspor?
Vælge fodspor mine med...
Fodspor.
Jeg stiller mig foran døren.
So we come sort of a long way from the weird snowman mechanic, just seeing if we can do a multiplayer game, to actually having a multiplayer game with voiceover or VoIP or IP, and actual mechanics and asymmetrical replication and stuff like that. So now there's a sort of an idea of what the game could look like. But the setting, of course, doesn't look very good, and we are delivering this to the DFI and saying, could you give us some more money to develop it? And they said, no, it's not really nice. You have to change the setting. So we had some workshops to figure out like what kind of setting should we go for. It's sort of a gray boxed area right now, and we had these different ideas. And then it sort of started to take this direction of, you know, the revenge of the synths. That seemed like a very sort of fun, popular culture that was a little bit underserved, and thought that could be fun to make. And we all liked it very much. We also tried to explore this sort of Tomb Raider kind of world. But we went with the revenge of the synths. And then the prototype started looking a little bit more advanced, with a little bit more mechanics and a little bit of a different world. Now with, you know, some interesting X-ray vision stuff, some sneaking, some interaction with other players and stuff like that. So it's coming along the way. So we delivered this prototype to the DFI and then got this answer back that we were not going to get any more money because they didn't really think that our game had any cultural value. Basically the setting, we were told, was too much the thing, too popular culture, and it had to be rooted more in, you know, something else that was more edgy. So we had to sort of make a weird decision. Should we go for more cultural value or should we go for more commercial genre? At that point, we were talking to a publisher called THQ, and they were like, do the thing, it's going to be amazing. But obviously, they didn't want to give us any money yet until we'd done more work, right? So at the end, we actually decided to try to do more cultural value and make it more edgy. And this is sort of became the key art that we were presenting. Very Jetson, very cultural value and stuff like that. But then, right when we were delivering this, someone launched this game, which was sort of the same concept and sort of also the same key art, just more nice and from China. So we got a little bit worried, what are we going to do? Should we just go with it or should we do something else? We then decided probably this is not going to be a hit anyways, because there are so many games coming out, and if we just continue along the road, we're onto something good. So let's not shake anything. So, but we were sort of also running out of money. We only had 34,000 kroner left in the account. And then we decided, well, you know, we'll probably just spend the rest and go to GDC and see what happens. And GDC is this conference in San Francisco. And it was also sort of a last minute thing. If we don't get any more money, then at least we've gone to GDC and seen that in our careers of making games. And then while we were there, we got an answer back from the DFI based on the new concept that we had delivered and said, okay, we think you should do a vertical slice and implement this. And got another 900,000. So it's a big risk to just spend the last money, but it turned out in doing the right thing. You get really tired if you're in doubt going to GDC. This is how you look going home. It's a little bit hard. So we ended up making a vertical slice. It took about 8 months, I think. And now you can see it's starting to look a lot different. I'll play this video for you.
Oh, there's someone behind you. It was me! Hey, bring sticker for me. Oh, two.
That's the second time.
So a lot of the things that we've been making along the way are now sort of taking form and becoming in all the asymmetrical things and stuff like that.
What the? No, it was an accident. It was an accident. No.
And then we had the co-op kills. And when you died, you became a vacuum cleaner. But we also very quickly spent the 900,000 making this and were sort of running out of money again, weirdly enough. So we sort of had to figure out how to get more money. And no one really wanted to give us any more money because they felt that this genre, which was social deduction, was completely not mainstream. And we were told many, many times this would never sell beyond what a board game would sell. Which was sort of not very satisfying. Of course, we proved them wrong, and also Among Us proved them pretty wrong, I would say. So social deduction, big game, quite big. But meanwhile, we were doing some work for hire. We did lots of VR stuff for big companies. This is a water thing that we did for a water company. That's sometimes how you survive. Is just to make other stuff for other people. But at some point we were so close to running out that we had just 8 days until we had to sort of make everyone quit or fire everyone. And we were 8 days from going bankrupt, and I was pretty worried at this point. And then I sort of remembered something my old boss in another company had said, that you're always worth something to someone, so just keep pitching forever. There's always someone that sees your idea as the perfect idea in the world, and they agree with you. So we sort of did that, and I ended up at Gamescom, and we were pitching to lots of investors, and I met a Russian guy who said, your game is not very funny, it's gonna be a shit game. And I had to go from that meeting to another meeting in something called the Dorint, and I met these 2 guys that I couldn't initially find who were drinking wine. And I didn't bring my computer because David had to go to a different meeting, my co-founder. So I gave him the computer, and I sat with these 2 guys, and they asked me, so what are you doing? And I said, I'm doing this sort of town of Salem social deduction thing, and how much are you going to sell? 10 million copies. And then, half an hour later, they called me and said, we would like to invest in your company. So there is always someone that thinks, this is a $200,000 car, by the way, if you know that it's a very valuable car. So there's always someone that can see the value in what you're doing, and you should just keep pitching whatever idea you have. And then, we also think about publishers. I'm not going to talk too much about publishers because that's also a different talk. But there's publishers is a whole strange animal that you should, learn to pitch. There's so many publishers in the world, and they will all tell you that they can serve your game the best. So then we ended up getting the investment, and we also got a publisher at the end, and almost 10 million kroner to complete our game, which was great. And we finally released the game and celebrated, and we also got on PlayStation, which was fun. And this is sort of the trailer we did for the release with some sort of medium-sized streamers. And the core to our success was these medium-sized streamers that we spent a huge amount of time finding. So I would go to Twitter, and then I would find these Twitch first, or find the streamers, and then go to Twitter for the very big streamers, and then figure out who they were following of the mid-sized streamers. And then we contacted the mid-sized streamers, and specifically Technique and Cooley Smiley that you see here were followed by Valkyrie, which is a very big streamer, and it turned out to be a success because Valkyrie picked it up after she saw these 2 streamers.
You need to put the fire out.
Why are you chasing me? Jambo, she's been trying to kill us the whole time.
It's not me! It's not me!
I love it.
Yes!
Yeah, so by the end of 2021, we released in April. We had sold 350,000 copies. So we were on PlayStation Plus, and 3 million people were playing our game. And by March 2022, we sold the company to a group called Embracer. So that was sort of the journey from the snowman all the way to selling your company, which seems kind of fast when I talk about it here, but felt very much like the roller coaster I showed you at the end. Like every turn, it was very, very fun, but also felt like we were going to die immediately after. So now we're doing a new game after we sold to Embracer, and I'll just show you that for the fun of it, and then I'll get back to the key takeaways. notice there's still snowballs in the game. So we went from the snowman all the way to this, and it's been, I think, 5 years-ish for this journey. So very much this is the key takeaway. It will be fun, but it will also be very, very hard along the way, and you just have to keep going. And that's just sort of summed up here, that you make your games iteratively, but you build your studio the same way. This was the first office and us trying to tear down a wall. You take it one step at a time and test and validate all the time. We originally thought that these very long asymmetrical tasks should be quite complex, and it turned out that they should probably be quite simple, and that was the fun element. And then you should celebrate every small victory. We would always celebrate every time there was anything to celebrate, and you should do the same. And then, of course, you should always work with the right kind of people. And in my case, these are very strange individuals that have a very dark sense of humor and are very fun to be around. And I think that's an important takeaway, that you should never do it for the project. You should only do it for the people that you get to work with, because it's going to be hard. So it's more fun to have fun together while it's very hard. And just do it. Unless an idiot would do it, then don't. Just throw yourselves at it, and it will all turn out brilliant in the end, I promise. Yeah, that's it. Any questions from the team? Any questions? Yeah?
You said you sold the company,
Yeah?
but did you start a new company?
No, I didn't start any
You're
company.
part of the company still?
No, I left the company to work for the organization for games in Denmark, or the association, which is Games Denmark.
Okay.
So I worked there I was CEO for another 2 years and then left.
Are you a millionaire?
I don't complain. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Thank you.
All right, so I think we should clap one more time. Especially for the neighboring thing. That's really fun. The snowballs. So now the pitch will start at 10. And we haven't really decided who goes up first and in what order. So it's kind of like what we call, probably everyone knows this, Framløga. So whoever wants to go first gets to come up, and then we'll just go through each one. But until then, please just keep eating. There's too much food at the moment. So, and again, just mingle, talk. It's not very formal, so that's fine. Then we'll start the pitching at 10.
How many games are there for pitching? Okay.